we got the next one up, Defensive Player of the Year. And I'll go ahead and start this one off. I'm going with one of my favorite players in the league, Myles Garrett. That was my pick from the start of the season for Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to stick with my guy, Myles Garrett. Man, that guy is a freak. He needs to get the hell out of Cleveland. They are ruining this guy's career. But I'm going to go Myles Garrett in this one, man. I love me some Myles Garrett. G-Mike, what you got?
See, this is another award where I think defensive line should have their own award, right? Because my pick is Patrick Surtain. And the reason I'm saying this is because when it comes to the stat sheet, corners don't get a lot of input into the stat sheets because it's either they only get tackles, deflections, or interceptions. And for them to get interceptions is pretty tough. You probably only see corners get like 6 receptions a year. If they're really great, maybe 8 or 9. But most of the time they're getting tackles, of course, because they got to tackle the receiver, and then deflections. But they're not putting on the stat sheet of what they're doing to these top receivers, slowing them down, not letting them be able to get open, not letting them be able to get comfortable and trying to catch the ball or run a route. Like, there's a lot of mishaps that happen with the corners. And again, with D linemen, I see why they get the awards, because most of the time, they're tackling the running back, they're pressuring the QB, they're fighting off the O line that is trying to block them, and they get a lot of praise because you see them involved more in the play than a corner would. So I think with this award, they need to change it up a little bit, just like how I feel with the MVP. But yeah, my pick is going to be Patrick Surtain. I think he did a lot against top receivers. Obviously, you can't stop top receivers. That's why they're top receivers. But he still did work against them. And he is one of the reasons why the Denver Broncos went to the playoffs.
Agreed. And to piggyback of what you're saying as well, is that getting sacks is a hell of a lot sexier stat than shutting down a wide receiver. And how many times, he's like the second coming of Darrelle Revis. How many times did a receiver go on his side, they even throw on his side? Exactly. And Surtain shut it down. Absolutely. You had to game plan your receiver to move them around because Patrick Surtain was coming. So that was one of my when I saw the list, I totally agree with you. I think Surtain should have got a hell of a lot more love than he did. BC, your turn, man.
Yeah, and I will say, I want to shout out somebody let me just shout out someone on this list. Zach Bond, great story, led the league in tackles, had, double-digit tackles for loss. Amazing season for sure, and he's also, the linebackers considered the leader of the number 1 defense in the league, and that's great. But I do agree with G-Mike on this one. I think that the way Patrick Surtain, not just this season, but the last few seasons, has just been he's been one of the best, but you could potentially say the best shutdown corner in the league. It's basically Revis Island 2.0 out there in Denver.
It's the second coming of Revis.
And if we're going to shout out team success as well in terms of, because last year, what was the argument for Myles Garrett? Oh, he doesn't have as many sacks as TJ Watt, but he's on also the best defense in the league. This year, Cleveland's nowhere near the top 20. So I feel like, for me, that's kind of why I take him out of it. Trey Hendrickson. Hey, I'm just saying, that was the big thing last year. This year, it's bro, come on, the argument's not there, at least in my opinion. But Patrick Surtain, the Broncos, number 3 scoring defense, number 7 in yards, so top 10, top 5-ish type defense. And like you said, G-Mike, they have some good players on that side of the ball, but without Surtain dominating, he held opposing quarterbacks to, when he was targeted, I believe his rating, the total QBR, or maybe even passer rating, was 58.2 or something, which is well below league average. So when opposing quarterbacks target him, it's basically pick your poison. You are screwed if you go to that side of the field. And like you said, that's not going to show up in the stat sheet. A lot of times when you decide not to throw to him, that's not going to show up. Be like, oh yeah, how many times did quarterbacks look his way, but they opted to go the other way because he's just on his man constantly. He's got 4 interceptions this year, and that's great. The amount of times he was targeted, and also too, he's got an interception return for a touchdown. But again, we're total QBR when targeted. A lot of these more advanced statistics, I think we need to start looking at to give the cornerback some love. And again, he was the leader on that side of the ball for one of the top 5 defenses in the league. And like you said, biggest reason why they made the playoffs is that defense. So I want to give some love to the secondary. Give it to Pat Surtain second.
I want to give a shout out real quick to my guy, Mr. Dale Morley. Love you, buddy. Thanks for checking in with us and watching the show. He's going with Patrick Surtain, and that's a very, very, very good one.
PS2, baby.
The second.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that name. PS2. Let's go. That's a throwback.
I didn't make that up.
Damn it! You
No.
should get over that. That is good.
Didn't make that up. I can't.
No,
take
but
someone else's
I mean, still, like I love that though. That gives me such good memories.
All right, so we'll go ahead and
Tony
wrap
Hawk
the
Pro Skater,
defensive
you remember
MVP up real quick,
And
and
no
we'll go ahead and go back over our picks. If you didn't catch them, it is for me. I'm going Myles Garrett, although I do believe Patrick Surtain absolutely deserves it, but I'm going to stick with my pick for the beginning of the season and Myles Garrett. Mr. BC, who you got?
I gotta go with PS2, man. Patrick Surtain the second.
PS2, baby, bring it back.
There we go. Not a bad pick at all, my man. Not a bad pick at all.